It was a cold, rainy night, and I was driving home after a long day at work. The rain poured down so hard I could barely see through the windshield, even with the wipers going full speed. The road ahead was deserted, just the headlights of my car cutting through the darkness. I had been on this road 100 times before, but something about it felt different that night. It was quieter, lonelier. The rain made everything seem distant, like I was driving through a dream. I just wanted to get home and out of the storm. As I rounded a bend in the road, my headlights caught a figure standing on the side, soaking wet, thumb sticking out. A hitchhiker. He was just standing there in the pouring rain. No umbrella, no jacket, nothing. It seemed strange, but I couldn't leave him out there in this weather. Against my better judgment, I slowed down and pulled over next to him. He looked young, maybe in his early 20s, with dark hair plastered to his head from the rain. He wore a plain white shirt and jeans, and he wasn't carrying anything. I rolled down the window just enough to speak. "Need a ride?" I asked, my voice barely louder than the rain. He didn't say a word. He just nodded and opened the door, sliding into the passenger seat. The air around him was freezing, much colder than it should have been. I shivered as he shut the door and buckled his seatbelt without a word. I glanced over at him, but his face was turned toward the window. "Where are you headed?" I asked, trying to break the awkward silence. "Just up the road," he said quietly, his voice soft and flat. "Not far." I nodded and started driving again, my hands gripping the steering wheel a little tighter than usual. Something about him felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but there was this strange tension in the air, like the temperature had dropped several degrees the moment he got in the car. The rain kept pounding against the roof, and the wipers swished back and forth, filling the silence. I tried to make conversation. "Rough night to be out walking," I said, glancing at him again. He didn't respond, just kept staring out the window, his face blank. We drove in silence for a few more minutes. The road ahead was pitch black, no streetlights, no other cars, just the sound of the rain. I kept glancing at the hitchhiker out of the corner of my eye. There was something about the way he sat so still, not moving, not saying anything, that made my skin crawl. I shook my head, trying to brush off the unease. "So, where exactly are you headed?" I asked again, trying to keep my voice steady. He slowly turned to face me. His eyes were dark, and his expression was blank, almost lifeless. "Just ahead," he said quietly. "You'll see." A chill ran down my spine. I wanted to drop him off as soon as possible, but there was no sign of any houses or buildings ahead, just the empty, rain-soaked road. I was about to ask him where he meant when he suddenly pointed. "There." "Right there," he said, his voice a little louder, almost urgent. I squinted through the rain, but I didn't see anything. "Where?" "Right there," he insisted, pointing again. "Stop the car." Reluctantly, I pulled over to the side of the road. There was nothing there, no houses, no driveways, just trees and the empty road. I turned to ask if he was sure, but when I looked over, he was gone. The passenger seat was empty. The door hadn't opened, and I hadn't heard anything. It was like he had vanished into thin air. My heart raced, and I felt my hands start to shake. I looked around, scanning the road, the trees, the rain. There was no sign of him, no footprints, no movement, nothing. Just the cold, empty night. I sat there for a moment, frozen, trying to make sense of what had just happened. I looked at the seat again, half expecting him to reappear, but it was still empty. The air in the car felt colder than ever, and my breath fogged up the windshield. Without thinking, I slammed the car into gear and sped away. My mind raced as I tried to wrap my head around it. Where had he gone? Had he even been there at all? I drove faster than I should have, not caring about the rain or the slick road. I just wanted to get home, away from whatever had just happened. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat in the car for a long time, my hands still gripping the wheel. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the house lights looked warm and inviting, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled over me. I never saw the hitchhiker again, but I couldn't forget the way he had looked, the way he had vanished without a sound. I later found out that several people had claimed to see a young man hitchhiking on that same stretch of road over the years, always on rainy nights, and always disappearing before reaching his destination. They say he's a ghost, someone who died in a car accident on that road long ago, still trying to get home. And now, every time it rains, I can't help but wonder if I ever drive that way again, will I see him? Will he get into my car, only to vanish once more? One thing's for sure, I'm never picking up another hitchhiker again.